next at Moscow for breaking news, an unverified story that we're tracking out of Russia's war on Ukraine. The Kremlin is making an extraordinary claim. Let's bring in Briar Stewart from London with more on, first of all, what Russia is saying. Briar?
Well, Heather, the Kremlin is saying that overnight 2 drones were fired at the Kremlin. And in fact, they're calling it a terrorist attack and an attempt on President Putin's life. Now, as you mentioned, right now it is unverified. There are some videos circulating on social media on different Russian Telegram channels, but we haven't been able to verify them yet. What the Kremlin is saying is that 2 drones were intercepted by the military and by electronic defenses, and that there was debris that was scattered on to the Kremlin, but there was no damage. And they say that President Putin wasn't there at the time. He was working outside of the capital. What Moscow is also saying is that it will retaliate when and how it sees fit. Obviously, that's a very ominous statement. And this whole incident, if you will, that the Kremlin is alleging comes just a few days before its annual Victory Day parade. It happens May 9th. It's always a time for a lot of pomp in Moscow when soldiers and military equipment is paraded down the street. Security in Moscow is already heightened, more so than it ever has been before. In fact, Red Square, which is just outside of the Kremlin, it is completely closed off. And right now, they're also banning use of any civilian drones in the capital as well. Now, as for Ukraine, a senior presidential official in Ukraine has denied that Kyiv has anything to do with this, saying that this will not help Ukraine at all on the battlefield. And in fact, what officials in Ukraine are saying, the concern now is that they believe this could be a pretext and that it's Russia that's planning a large attack.
The Kremlin making these claims, Briar, against the backdrop of an expected Ukrainian counteroffensive. Certainly Canada and other allies have been shipping heavy weapons to Ukraine in preparation. Any idea at this point about when that could begin?
Well, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Helsinki today meeting with Nordic leaders, and that's one of the things he is talking about, just more weapons for Ukraine. In particular, Ukraine wants to see fighter jets. But he was asked about the counteroffensive. He replied that it would be starting soon. But what we're seeing really is an escalation of fighting. We're seeing more attacks on Ukraine in recent days, including one in Kherson, which killed 8 people. And I can tell you that I spoke with an advisor to Ukraine's defense ministry, and he told me that in some ways the counteroffensive is already underway. It's not like there's just a green light and all of a sudden it just begins en masse, but there's a lot of groundwork that has been laid. And he said really that in Ukraine there's only a couple of people that know the full plan, and that really the start of it is already underway.
Briar, thank you very much.